Hi there, Jeff here from the Wetsuit Centre, talking to you today about the Xcel comp range of wetsuits for fall 2020 into winter 2021. The comp range of wetsuits is kind of like the mid-entry level wetsuit within the Xcel range. Having said that, it's one of our favourite sort of mid-range wetsuits at the Wetsuit Centre because of the amount of technical features you get versus the price that you pay. Okay. Now this particular wetsuit, the comp, is available for women, kids and men's, and it's available in different thicknesses. The winter suit that we'll be talking about in the UK is 5'4", so that's 5 mil of neoprene in the lower body and around the sort of torso where you need extra warmth, and then 4 mil around the shoulders and under the arms where you need all the flexibility. We also do it in the 4'3" and the 3'2". Typically in the UK, a 4'3" would be good for kind of autumn, and then maybe even through the summer if you really feel the cold, and maybe even through the winter if you really don't feel the cold. But 4'3" in Southern Europe, in Portugal, these sort of countries is much more popular. But typically, winter wetsuit is a 5 mil, and that's the sort of stock that we have at the moment going to October 2020 in the UK. As I say, the suit, we've done a video on this suit before. There's a primary difference between this year and last year, which I'll talk you through in a second, and that comes down to the lining of the wetsuit and then the shape or the paneling of the men's wetsuit as well. You're getting a little bit more for your money this year, which is a nice feature. But we'll have a look at the men's wetsuit for you now. So the key things to note on the outside of the suit that you'll notice is the paneling of the wetsuit. So this is the biggest difference between this year and last year, but this is really just for the men. Instead of having a sort of a chest panel independently stitched in front and back, you now have one big piece of neoprene right the way through to the knee, front and back, which is just going to give you unrestricted flex through the lumbar and through the chest panel and the sort of lower abdomen area of the wetsuit, which is really nice when you're sort of arching your back on a surfboard or doing anything basically and you need a bit more flexibility. Also allows them to add more thermal lining through the suit. We'll talk about that once we turn the suit inside out. But that's one of the biggest differences between last year and this year. Nice, much bigger uninterrupted panel through the centre of the wetsuit and round the back as well. The neoprene in this suit, is worth noting, is Ultraflex neoprene 100%. What we mean when we say Ultraflex is basically there's more cells of air within the rubber. And what that does is give you more flexibility, okay, but also insulates you better because as heat leaves your body basically, having more cells of air within the neoprene allows to trap more warm air and then insulate you better as well, okay, so that's really important. And the actual jersey or the actual lining of the rubber as well is much smoother to the touch, much more flexible and much softer as well, okay, so you get what you pay for, and as you spend more up until sort of like £300, the lining becomes more technical and you get more technical jersey on the neoprene. You get something which is called channel flex. And that gives you even more flexibility and more quick drying properties. So you can spend a fortune if you really want a very technical wetsuit, but this sits somewhere in the middle, so it's going to give you all the features you want, like thermal lining and Ultraflex neoprene, without spending too much money, basically. Okay, so we move further down, you get these standard things like the Duraflex Knee Pad. What we'll do is I'll hang up the suit and just basically take the close-up camera down the suit for you so you can have a little look. Okay, so moving, you can see at the top you've got the chest entry system there as well. Basically that is a piece of neoprene which goes up and over the top of the wetsuit. I'll go into that a little bit more depth, but as we scroll down you can see that sort of big piece of neoprene running through the centre, and getting further down towards the knees here you can see the Duraflex knee pads, and that's just basically a really durable, strong material, which means if you duck dive with your knee on a surfboard, whatever you're doing, if your knees come in contact with a hard surface, it's not going to wear through as quickly or collapse, okay? One thing I will have a little look back closer as well is the seams. If you have a little look here, you've got a glued and blind stitched seam, which is really important to note as well. And basically that means it's stitched halfway through and then glued and then basically fastened on the inside as well, just to make sure that you don't have any water coming through the inseams, which is particularly important on a winter wetsuit. Okay, so have a look at the suit again on the outside. I'll turn it around for you. You can just have a little look at the paneling of the suit as well. Okay, but going back to the chest entry system, I'll hold this a bit closer. The comp is only available in the chest entry, okay? The way it works, it's just really a good system of keeping out water because you've got an unbroken seam around the collar, which means it's less likely to flush through if you don't have a zip running through the middle of it. And also the back panel of the wetsuit doesn't have a zip in it, which means it's much more flexible across the back when you're arching your back and when you're sort of moving your back or anything like that, okay? So coming up the front, we've got a little toggle here which basically stops the zip from opening up. But the actual inside of the wetsuit underneath here, you can have a little look. Opens up nice and wide. This is where you get in. It's not as hard as the downside of having a chest zip, it is harder to get in and out of because obviously you're getting right through the top and it doesn't open up as wide. But the positives are that it is obviously a bit better at keeping out water and gives a bit more flex. But essentially you turn this inside out down to the waist and get in that way and pull it up and over your body. But the inside of the wetsuit is actually here, then the chest zip is sewn over the top and then you zip it across the front here. Good attention to detail. The zip goes from in to out, so you don't have to try and catch it on. And it's a good quality PK zip as well, so it's not going to corrode or basically get clogged up with salt water anytime soon. And then you've got a toggle, which you just pull on and it fastens it. Xcel are one of the first people to do like the X2 system or the chest zip system. They pioneered it really and got it right. And so you'll find that it is the entry system across most of the suits. And that's including the ladies as well. The ladies got chest zip. Having a little look at the ladies suit as well, you can have a look at the panelling slightly different. You've got basically bigger underarm panels to sort of shoot the shape of a woman a bit better. And also you've got that sort of dip around the sort of abdomen, around the lumbar as well, and you have a bit of a butt seam there as well. Okay, so more seams than the ladies, and it's just designed to sort of hug the lady's body and suit the lady's shape a little bit better. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the suit inside out for you and have a look at what's going on inside and talk a little bit about one of the biggest changes in the suit between this year and last year, which is the lining of the suit. So I'm just going to turn this inside out and we'll have a little look at what is going on inside. So here is the suit in all its glory inside out. I'll grab this and bring this a bit closer so you can have a little look. And what we'll do in a second is I'll run a close-up camera up and down it so you can have a nice close look at the wetsuit. Okay, so this is the comp. So this sits about just over 200 quid in the UK. As you spend more money, you get more technical things, as we say, like I think it's the limited edition has the radiant rebound running through it. The Phoenix has this lining, but it's taped. So you get little things, but that's the key thing to mention. This suit is glued and blind stitched, but you look at the seams, there's no taping on the seams apart from in the critical areas. So around the sort of joins where the chest panel meets the arms, that kind of thing. So the real stress points of the suit, you get the taping there, but the rest of it is just double stitched, basically, okay, but it's fully sealed. So the material you'll notice is different this year. Last year you just got that sort of thermal lining around the chest and kidneys. This year you've got this new material which is called the Thermolite Infrared, right the way through the back panel down to the knee and through the front as well, and that's that slightly darker grey. And essentially what that is kind of like a thermal lining, basically like you'd get in a thermal underwear or something like that. It's non-absorbent, so it doesn't hold water, and the water will be wicked away from your body. But what it does do, it insulates you, basically. It traps warm air as it leaves your body and reflects it back into your body to keep you warmer and in the water for longer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pop it back up here, and then you can have a little look nice and close on the close-up camera. Okay, so if you have a look at this material, you can have a look at the seams, and as we run down nice and close up around that chest panel, and you can see that material. And as it does, it'll just reflect heat back inside the suit. And as you spend more money, so if you're looking for the real cutting edge stuff like the Radiant Rebound in the Infinity Limited Edition, it's just basically even fluffier, so it traps warm, does an even better job of insulating and keeping you warm and reflecting the heat back in. So moving further down in the suit, you've got the nice big seam around the groin there, which is a really important place to have a bit of taping, just basically because typically that's where wetsuits will wear through and start to leak, especially as we all start to rise sort of shorter, wider boards, and as you're sitting on your board, you put more stress on that seam. Okay, so moving back out here, this is pretty much everything going on the inside of the suit then. So when you're talking just over £200, you're getting basically 100% Ultraflex wetsuit, fully sealed. You're getting thermal lining front and back as well. Nice new tech there as well. Chest entry system, and that's the same with men, women's and kids. And women's looks exactly the same on the inside, and so does the kids. And it's just basically down to It's just basically down to the amount of money that you're spending versus what you're getting back. The things with the suit that you're missing is obviously the taping on the seams. And if you did want that, this is the same lining in the Phoenix, which is new for this year, which we'll do a separate video on. But you also get the taping through the inside of the seam, and you also get some of the channel flex neoprene around the shoulders as well, okay, which is a slightly different lining to the jersey, which gives even more flexibility and quick drying properties. But if you're looking for a suit without spending a vast, if you're looking at basing your budgets around the 200 quid mark, it's definitely worth extending your budget slightly over 200 quid, because this is going to give you great value. You're getting thermal lining the whole way through, and you're also getting a fully welded suit and Ultraflex neoprene. One thing that's worth mentioning as well, which is mattering to more and more people, is how they make the suits with Xcel. With this particular suit, some of the most damaging things to the environment can be the way that they dye the neoprene. They used to basically dunk the suits or dunk the jerseys into big vats of dye, and then there was always a huge amount of excess which they just basically threw away, and it is very harmful in the environment. So this is dyed yarn basically. So the actual jersey on the neoprene is dyed using a very sort of efficient machine, basically where they run the thread through, so there's no extra waste in terms of the actual dye. It's a water-based glue as well, so it's a lot less toxic to the environment. And some of the processes they use as well are much more friendly, so like the Japanese limestone-based neoprene. None of it's fantastic for the environment, unfortunately. Not a lot of the equipment within surfing is, unfortunately. But there's certain things that some companies are doing, like Xcel, like O'Neill, and a few of the other top manufacturers, where they're just basically trying to sort of refine the processes so it is less harmful. So if that's something you want to think about, obviously Patagonia are the best at it, but within the sort of the key things is the dope dyeing, and also the water-based glue, that kind of thing, and the limestone neoprene as well. The way that it's produced is a little bit less harmful to the environment. But that's pretty much everything going on with the Xcel comp. So yeah, as we say, it's available in men's, women's and kids. And it's just basically a good all-round wetsuit without spending a fortune. It's going to be nice and flexible, keep you really warm through the winter months, and you're not going to be spending too much money. So Xcel comp 2021.